When the buses began arriving at New York City's Port Authority terminal from Texas without warning in August, city officials had to scramble. On some days, as many as 8 to 10 buses rolled in, filled with men and women carrying children, but no luggage.
In a recent viral video, the spotlight is on New York City as a fleet of buses, numbering in the hundreds, heads its way. This unexpected and massive movement has sparked intense curiosity and concern. Today, we're unwrapping the layers of this unfolding story. The video.
At least 3 more buses of migrants just arrived at the Port Authority, despite this new executive order from Mayor Adams that just took effect overnight.
In recent months, New York City has become the epicenter of a humanitarian crisis as thousands of individuals from around the world seek refuge and a chance at a better life. With a staggering influx, exceeding 116,000 individuals, New York City has become a haven for migrants, predominantly arriving in buses from the challenging landscapes of the U.S.-Mexico border. Driven by the pursuit of refuge from adversities in their home countries, these migrants seek asylum, an essential shield against deportation that offers sanctuary within the United States. However, navigating the intricate asylum process comes with its challenges. Awaiting a crucial lifeline, many find themselves in a temporary bind, as asylum rules mandate an approximately 6-month waiting period before they become eligible for a work permit, adding an additional layer of complexity to their journey. Part of the influx of migrants is by design. Republican governors in Florida and Texas have been sending new arrivals northward by bus or plane, including to New York City. This strategic move is an effort to provoke a reaction from the federal government and Democratic-led cities. Governor Greg Abbott of Texas alone has sent over 13,300 migrants in buses to New York City since the spring of 2022. News of this welcome mat has spread rapidly among immigrant circles through social media, attracting more migrants to the city. When Governor Abbott sent migrants to the city by bus, Mayor Adams greeted them at the Port Authority bus terminal, aiming to appear welcoming in contrast to Abbott's cruelty. However, in recent months, the administration has distributed flyers at the border, directing migrants away from traveling to NYC. New York City's international draw and reputation as a city of opportunity have also played a significant role in attracting migrants. New York City, known as the melting pot of cultures and the land of opportunity, has become a magnet for migrants from all corners of the globe. The reasons behind this mass migration are as diverse as the people themselves. Firstly, economic prospects play a significant role. New York City is a thriving hub of commerce, finance, and industry, offering a wide range of job opportunities. The allure of higher wages, better working conditions, and the chance to climb the socioeconomic ladder draws migrants seeking a brighter future for themselves and their families. Secondly, the city's reputation as a cultural mecca is a major pull factor. With its world-renowned museums, theaters, and art galleries, New York offers a rich and diverse cultural experience. Migrants are attracted to the vibrant neighborhoods and the chance to immerse themselves in a tapestry of languages, traditions, and cuisines. Furthermore, New York City has a long history of embracing diversity and providing a safe haven for those fleeing persecution and conflict. The city's commitment to inclusivity and its robust support systems for refugees and asylum seekers make it an attractive destination for those seeking protection and a fresh start. In addition to economic and cultural factors, family reunification is another driving force behind the migration to New York. Many migrants have relatives or friends already residing in the city, creating a network of support and familiarity that eases the transition into a new environment. Lastly, the global refugee crisis has played a significant role in the influx of migrants to New York. As conflicts and instability persist in various parts of the world, individuals and families are forced to flee their homes in search of safety. The migrants arriving in New York City come from a diverse range of countries. For example, over 7 million Venezuelans have left their country due to economic collapse and a repressive government. The United States has taken in approximately 545,000 Venezuelans, while Latin American and Caribbean countries have taken in over 6 million. Migrants are also arriving from other Latin American and Caribbean countries such as Cuba, Haiti, Guatemala, Nicaragua, as well as African countries like Senegal and Guinea. What sets this wave of migration apart is the increased number of families traveling together. Unlike previous waves, which primarily consisted of single adults, these families have unique needs and higher standards for their living conditions. This shift in demographics has put additional strain on the city's resources and further complicated the already challenging task of providing shelter and support. Once migrants arrive in the bustling streets of New York City, their journey is far from over. They face a new set of challenges and opportunities as they navigate the complexities of settling into their new lives. One of the first steps for migrants is finding shelter. With the sheer volume of arrivals, the demand for housing has skyrocketed. Temporary shelters have been established to provide immediate relief, but the need for long-term housing solutions remains a pressing issue. The arrival of over 100,000 migrants in New York City has not only posed logistical challenges, but also significant financial implications. Caring for migrants comes at a substantial cost, and the city has had to allocate additional funds to meet their needs. One of the most significant expenses is providing housing for migrants. Temporary shelters and transitional housing facilities have been established to accommodate the influx of arrivals. However, the cost of maintaining and expanding these facilities, as well as securing long-term housing solutions, has put a strain on the city's budget. Healthcare is another area where costs have escalated. New York City has expanded healthcare services to ensure that migrants have access to quality medical care. This includes primary care, mental health support, and specialized services. The increased demand for healthcare resources, coupled with the need for language interpretation services and cultural competency training, has added to the financial burden. Education is another significant expense. Migrant children have the right to receive an education, and New York City is committed to providing them with the necessary resources. This includes language classes, specialized support, and additional staff to meet the unique needs of migrant students. The cost of hiring and training teachers, as well as providing educational materials, has contributed to the overall expenditure. Furthermore, social services such as food assistance, legal aid, and social integration programs require substantial funding. These services aim to support migrants in their transition and help them navigate the complexities of their new lives. The city has had to allocate resources to ensure that migrants have access to these essential services. To address the financial implications of caring for migrants, the city has implemented various measures. This includes budget reallocation, seeking federal and state funding, and partnering with nonprofit organizations and community groups. These collaborations help leverage resources and ensure that the burden is shared among different stakeholders. Additionally, the city has been proactive in advocating for comprehensive immigration reform at the federal level. By pushing for policies that provide a pathway to citizenship and address the root causes of migration, New York City aims to alleviate the strain on its resources and create a more sustainable system of support for migrants. The city's commitment to inclusivity and support for migrants is evident in the various programs and initiatives in place. However, the challenges of housing, healthcare, education, and employment remain significant, requiring ongoing efforts to ensure that migrants receive the resources and support they need to thrive. The city is facing a substantial financial burden, with projections indicating an expenditure of approximately $5 billion in the current fiscal year for the accommodation and sustenance of migrants. Mayor Adams has underscored that if the influx of migrants persists at the current rate, the anticipated cost is expected to surpass a staggering $12 billion over the span of the next 3 years. This economic challenge poses a significant strain on the city's resources, necessitating strategic planning and resource allocation to address both the immediate and long-term needs of the migrant population. The financial implications highlight the urgency of finding sustainable solutions to manage the fiscal impact on the city and ensure the well-being of all residents. The current crisis is deeply rooted in the long-standing issues of the United States' broken immigration system. This broken system not only worsens a global humanitarian problem, but also brings attention to the flaws and challenges when migrants move from the southern border into cities. According to a report from the Adams administration, various factors contribute to this situation. These include the lack of a comprehensive federal immigration reform, policies from the Trump administration, the impact of climate change, overwhelmed immigration courts, and limited options for immigrants to become permanent residents. Addressing these issues is crucial for finding practical solutions and creating positive changes. Migrants' crisis in the U.S. This ongoing crisis revolves around the migration of undocumented immigrants from Latin America who pass through Mexico in their quest to enter the United States. The Mexico-United States border crisis is not a recent phenomenon, but rather the culmination of a complex history and a convergence of various factors. To truly understand the gravity of the situation, we must delve into the historical context and the underlying causes that have contributed to this ongoing crisis. Mexican immigration to the United States dates back to the end of the Mexican Mexican-American War in 1848, when the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed. This treaty resulted in the annexation of Mexican territories by the United States, leading to a shift in the border dynamics and the movement of people between the two countries. Over the years, economic opportunities and the pursuit of a better life have been the driving forces behind Mexican immigration. The United States has served as a land of promise, offering employment prospects and the chance for a brighter future. However, the economic hardships faced by many in Mexico, coupled with the allure of the American dream, have created a constant flow of migrants seeking better opportunities across the border. In recent times, the crisis has been fueled by a combination of factors, including economic hardship, gang violence, and environmental disasters in countries such as Guatemala and Honduras. These countries, plagued by poverty, corruption, and political instability, have forced many of their citizens to seek refuge and a chance for survival elsewhere. The dire economic conditions, exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, have pushed even more people to undertake the perilous journey towards the United States. The pandemic has further deepened the economic hardships faced by individuals and families, leaving them with no choice but to seek a better life across the border. Gang violence has also played a significant role in driving migration from Central American countries. The rise of powerful criminal organizations, such as drug cartels, has created an environment of fear and insecurity, forcing many to flee their homes in search of safety and protection for themselves and their families. Additionally, environmental disasters such as hurricanes and droughts have ravaged these countries, destroying livelihoods and exacerbating the already dire economic conditions. The devastation caused by these disasters has further compelled people to leave their homes in search of stability and a chance to rebuild their lives. The number of migrant encounters at the Mexico-United States border has been steadily increasing, reaching a peak in December 2022 with over 220,000 apprehensions. This surge in migration has overwhelmed both the United States and Mexico, straining their resources and infrastructure. From the moment Donald J. Trump took office, he made it clear that border security was a top priority for his administration. With a promise to build a wall and crack down on illegal immigration, Trump's policies sent shockwaves through the nation. One of the most controversial policies enacted by the Trump administration was the implementation of Title 42. This policy, invoked during the COVID-19 pandemic, allowed for the expulsion of migrants from the United States on public health grounds. Under Title 42, thousands of migrants were swiftly expelled from the country without the opportunity to seek asylum or present their cases. Critics argued that this policy violated international human rights standards and left vulnerable individuals at risk. Despite the controversy, the Trump administration defended Title 42 as a necessary measure to protect public health and secure the border. The policy aimed to deter migrants from attempting to cross into the United States during a global health crisis. In addition to Title 42, the Trump administration implemented a range of other policies to address the border crisis. This included the deployment of additional Border Patrol agents, the construction of new sections of the border wall, and the expansion of detention facilities. The border wall became a symbol of Trump's commitment to border security. Stretching across miles of the border, the wall aimed to deter unauthorized crossings and provide a physical barrier between the United States and Mexico. However, the border wall faced fierce opposition from critics who argued that it was an ineffective and costly solution to the complex issue of immigration. They highlighted the environmental impact, the potential disruption of wildlife habitats, and the questionable efficacy of a physical barrier. Despite the challenges, the Trump administration pushed forward with its border security agenda. The policies implemented during this time had a significant impact on the border crisis, shaping the narrative and influencing the experiences of migrants and border communities. It is important to note that the Trump administration's approach to the border crisis was met with both support and criticism. Supporters applauded the efforts to strengthen border security and enforce immigration laws, while critics argued that the policies were inhumane and failed to address the root causes of migration. When Joe Biden assumed office as the 46th president of the United States, he inherited a border crisis that had reached unprecedented levels. His administration faced the daunting task of finding humane and effective solutions to the challenges at the border. One of the key policy shifts under the Biden administration was the end of the Remain in Mexico policy, officially known as the Migrant Protection Protocols. This policy, implemented by the Trump administration, required asylum seekers to wait in Mexico while their cases were processed in the United States. The Biden administration's decision to end the Remain in Mexico policy was met with mixed reactions. Supporters argued that it was a necessary step to restore compassion and fairness to the asylum process, while critics expressed concerns about the potential for increased migration and overwhelmed border facilities. crisis. As a result of this policy change, there was a significant increase in the number of migrants being processed and released into the United States. This led to overcrowded facilities and strained resources, creating a humanitarian challenge that the Biden administration had to address. To alleviate the strain on border facilities, the Biden administration implemented measures to expedite the processing of migrants. This included increasing the capacity of processing centers, deploying additional personnel, and working to streamline the asylum process. However, these efforts face significant challenges. The sheer volume of migrants, coupled with limited resources and infrastructure, made it difficult to process and care for everyone in a timely manner. This resulted in prolonged waiting periods and overcrowded conditions. Another policy change under the Biden administration was the prioritization of family reunification. The administration aimed to reunite families who had been separated at the border under the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy. While this policy shift was welcomed by advocates for immigrant rights, it also presented logistical and legal challenges. The process of locating and reuniting families proved to be complex and time-consuming, further adding to the strain on resources. In response to the ongoing border crisis, Vice President Kamala Harris was appointed to lead the administration's efforts in addressing the root causes of migration from Central America. This included diplomatic negotiations with countries such as Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. However, addressing the root causes of migration is a complex and long-term endeavor. It involves tackling issues such as economic instability, violence, and environmental disasters in the countries of origin. These challenges require sustained efforts and collaboration with international partners. The Biden administration's approach to the border crisis has drawn criticism from both ends of the political spectrum. Some argue that the policies are too lenient, fostering illegal immigration, while others contend that they fall short in addressing the root causes driving migration. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, a vocal critic of the Biden administration's immigration policies, consistently points fingers at the federal government, attributing recent surges in migrant crossings to what he alleges as governmental inaction. In response to his disapproval, Governor Abbott took decisive action, spearheading the creation of Operation Lone Star, OLS. This strategic initiative symbolizes a collaborative effort orchestrated between two pivotal entities, the Texas Department of Public Safety and the Texas Military Department. Unfolding along the expansive stretch of the United States-Mexico border in the southern region of the Lone Star State, OLS was launched in 2021 with the primary objective of countering illegal immigration, the illegal drug trade, and human smuggling. Nevertheless, Operation Lone Star faced controversy due to its busing program, designed to transfer migrants to sanctuary cities throughout the United States. While the initiative aimed to alleviate pressure on border communities, it inadvertently triggered a migrant crisis in cities such as New York City, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. Public reaction. Local authorities and citizens in these urban centers expressed discontent with the program, highlighting the strain it imposed on their resources and the absence of federal support in managing the sudden surge of migrants. For example, in New York City, the sheer number of arrivals has overwhelmed the city's already strained shelter system, pushing it to its breaking point. Earlier this year, Mayor Adams requested temporary relief from the legal obligation to shelter migrants as the city's shelter system became overwhelmed. In July, the city began issuing 60-day eviction notices to adult migrants in its shelters, with approximately 13,000 notices already distributed. Those who fail to secure their own housing have been directed to return to the Roosevelt Hotel to apply for other housing assistance. However, the limited availability of shelter beds has resulted in hundreds of migrants sleeping on cardboard outside the Roosevelt Hotel Navigation Center. Some have endured days of waiting, hoping to secure a spot in the city's shelter system. Mayor Adams himself acknowledged the severity of the situation, stating, "It's not going to get any better. From this moment on, it's downhill. There is no more room." To accommodate the growing number of migrants, the city has resorted to unconventional measures. Migrants are being housed in hotels, once vacant office buildings, school gyms, and emergency shelters on Randall's Island. Mayor Adams has even explored the possibility of temporarily housing migrants in parking lots, tents in Central Park and Prospect Park, and even on cruise ships. These desperate measures highlight the dire situation the city is facing. Despite the city's efforts to open over 200 new shelters for asylum seekers, housing vouchers have been identified as a necessary solution to alleviate the strain on the city's shelters. According to a report by the New York Immigration Coalition, providing migrants with housing vouchers to secure their own permanent housing could save the city a staggering $3 billion annually. However, the delays in work authorization for migrants have further compounded the challenges faced by the city. Most non-citizens arriving in the U.S. today are unable to legally work, and the backlog in processing asylum applications has only worsened the waiting period. This has put additional pressure on local organizations and governments to provide for the basic needs of these individuals and their families. The financial strain of supporting migrants has forced Mayor Adams to make difficult decisions, including cutting the budgets of various city agencies. With a staggering $12 billion deficit, every service in the city is expected to be impacted. The cost of providing food, housing, and other services for the thousands of families seeking asylum is astronomical. The city spends an average of $383 per household per night on these services, with a daily expenditure of approximately $9.8 million for the 57,300 migrants in its care on an average night. Mayor Adams has called for more federal funding to address this crisis, but the aid received thus far falls far short of the city's request. New York City has received over $140 million in federal funding, including $30 million from FEMA, but this is only a fraction of the $350 million requested. The strain on the city's budget has forced Mayor Adams to seek additional assistance from the state government and the Biden administration. According to the New York Times, the situation has reached a breaking point, with facilities stretched beyond their capacity and humanitarian organizations struggling to provide adequate support. The experiences of the migrants themselves are filled with hardships and uncertainty. Many embark on the perilous journey, facing extreme weather conditions, dangerous terrain, and the constant threat of violence and exploitation. They leave behind their homes, families, and everything they know, driven by desperation and the hope of a better future. For unaccompanied children, the journey is particularly harrowing. They face increased vulnerability and are at risk of falling prey to human traffickers and other forms of exploitation. The care and custody of these young migrants have become highly controversial, with debates surrounding their treatment and the capacity of facilities to provide appropriate care. Mayor Adams is urging the state government to do more and has requested a statewide decompression strategy to ensure all counties are assisting with the humanitarian crisis. He is calling for the establishment of more sites in New York City that the state can manage. Additionally, he has asked President Biden to declare a state of emergency to manage the border, which could unlock additional funding. However, the Biden administration has expressed concerns about the city's handling of the crisis. An assessment team was sent to study the migrant operation, and while the results have not been made public, it is clear that the city's efforts are facing scrutiny. The administration believes that the city's operation is not operationally sound and lacks an exit strategy to help migrants find their way out of the shelter system. The Mexico-United States border crisis has not only had profound humanitarian implications, but has also significantly impacted the political dynamics and bilateral relations between the two nations. The handling of the crisis by different administrations has been a subject of intense debate and scrutiny, shaping the narrative surrounding immigration policy and border security. The Biden administration, upon taking office, faced the daunting task of managing the border crisis inherited from the previous administration. The surge in migration and the overcrowded detention centers pose significant challenges, requiring swift action and comprehensive solutions. However, the administration's response has drawn criticism from Republicans and conservative commentators, who argue that the policies implemented have contributed to the increase in migrant encounters. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas has been a focal point of criticism, with Republicans calling for his impeachment and holding him responsible for the surge in migration. The political blame game has further polarized the issue, hindering constructive dialogue and impeding progress towards finding sustainable solutions. The border crisis has also strained the bilateral relations between the United States and Mexico. The management of the crisis requires close cooperation and coordination between the two nations as migrants pass through Mexico on their journey to the United States. The strain on resources and infrastructure, coupled with the political sensitivities surrounding immigration, has tested the relationship between the two countries. Efforts have been made to address the crisis through diplomatic channels and negotiations. The Senate has engaged in discussions to unlock aid for Ukraine, with the fate of the border deal intertwined with broader foreign policy considerations. However, the outcome of these negotiations remains uncertain, with Senate Republicans blocking the bipartisan border deal and foreign aid package in a key vote. Former President Donald Trump, known for his hardline stance on immigration, expressed satisfaction with the defeat of the bipartisan border security bill. His supporters view the defeat as a victory for stricter immigration policies and border control. The political dynamics surrounding the border crisis crisis continue to shape the discourse on immigration and influence public opinion. The Mexico-United States border crisis has become a symbol of the broader challenges faced by both nations in managing immigration and border security. The crisis highlights the need for comprehensive immigration reform that addresses the root causes of migration, provides pathways to legal immigration, and ensures the protection of human rights. Proposed legislative remedies have been introduced to address the crisis, but they have faced opposition and have not been passed. The political landscape and differing priorities have hindered progress towards finding a bipartisan solution. The border crisis remains a contentious issue, with no immediate resolution in sight. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.